Welcome back into the mental game, where this week's guest is NFL star Jeffery Simmons.
Growing up as a child, just the things you're going through, not having a dad. To this day, sometimes I sit and think about that. I wish I had a dad in my life. I wish, he was able to come to my game.
And in this episode, Jeffery opens up about his football journey, but also what his childhood was like growing up without a father, but learning the toughness and strength from his mother who inspired him to chase his NFL dreams. And he also talks about why he wants to be vulnerable and show that it's okay to be emotional as a man and an NFL player. All of that and much, much more coming up in this episode. But first, I want to tell you about Man Therapy. And guys, I am talking to you because, look, we have to talk about our mental health and be comfortable being vulnerable, and that's why I want you to go to mantherapy.org to find some amazing tools and resources to best take care of your mental health. But now it is time for the latest episode here on The Mental Game with Jeffery Simmons. Welcome back into the mental game. As you can see, sitting next to me, I have a very special guest, Jeff Simmons. Appreciate you so much for coming on the mental game, man.
Pleasure.
I feel really, really small right now. Look, I interview athletes and celebrities all the time, and a lot of them maybe be ex-athletes. I'm 5'7", little white guy from Cincinnati, but I feel really small right now. For you, man, thanks so much for coming on. I can't wait to talk about your story, getting into the league, the things you're doing off the field in the community, and just your passion for mental health, which is what I want to start with now. It's what I ask everyone to start the show. What does mental health mean to you? And it's a question that we all answer differently because we all have our own stories, go through different things. We discover it at different times. But for you, actually the same thing. What does mental health mean to you?
Yeah, I think when you talk about mental health, like you said, everyone do have their own way of explaining it. I think for me, it's like when them things you want to talk about, but you just can't.
Yeah.
And it's one of them things where, especially being an athlete, we go through so much. And sometimes because we're these big 300-pounders, we'll just, we kind of been, especially growing up as a young black man, we kind of taught to hold it in. And I think for me, especially growing up with a single parent, my mom raised 5 kids, I didn't know what it was like at first to talk about my problem and talk about my feelings, especially growing up without a dad. It was hard for me to, okay, this is what I'm going through. And when things got tough, through middle school, high school, of course, why are you dealing with problems then? But growing up as a child, just the things you're going through, not having a dad, to this day, sometimes I sit and think about that. And that's that mental aspect of it, not being able to, for me, I don't think at some point at time, I don't want to say it was 2 years ago, I wasn't ready to talk about it. It was one of them things where, I didn't feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to do it. I didn't feel like I needed to. But it's like when you talk about it and when you get it off your chest and, you just feel like a ton of weight off. When I could sit down and talk to my uncle and be like, I wish I had a dad in my life. I wish, he was able to come to my game as I was coming through high school and college. And it's just things like that where when it come down to mental health, I think of that, like I said, when we all could, go out there and tackle, a quarterback or sack a quarterback. But it's like, what are you dealing with off the field? What are you dealing with in your personal life that, is bothering you? And one of them things where you just, you're afraid to talk to someone, you're scared to be judged about it. So
I think I've asked this question probably 50 to 60 times now. That is the most insightful answer we've got right off the jump. So I appreciate that, just to set the bar there for this conversation. You mentioned your upbringing. Were you born in Louisiana, then moved to Mississippi?
Yeah, I was born in Louisiana.
I can hear the way you say Louisiana. I spent time there at LSU, so I know you're from Louisiana.
Oh, definitely. It was a crazy kind of story the way we kind of moved. I had a great uncle who lived in Mississippi. He owned a couple convenience stores, and I remember my mom packed us up in a minivan I'm like, where should get a minivan from? But he bought my mom a minivan, and she packed us all up and drove to Mississippi. I think I was maybe like 4 years old
Yeah.
when I first moved to Mississippi. It was I don't really know much because I was so young.
Yeah.
From coming from Louisiana, but Mississippi it's different.
Yeah.
It was a struggle. Of course, I was literally talking to my girl the other day, and I was just talking to her. I'm like, you talking about your mom was so tough on you, but you don't know tough. Like, I was messing with her. I'm like, you ever tried moving from 7 different times from when you first moved to somewhere to you left for college?
Yeah.
I think we moved like 7 times. So Mississippi was different, but yeah, I was born in Louisiana. I moved to Mississippi as a kid.
For you, when did you find football? You mentioned your path of watching a very, very hard-working woman and your mom raise you, not having that father figure, that father in your life. Where did that dream of playing football or that passion come from?
So I have an older brother who used to be in the backyard, and I've told this story several times, and a lot of people know it, that he's 2 years older than me, and we used to be in the backyard. He used to go to football practice. He used to bring his stuff home, and I used to try to take his stuff and put it on, and we used to like take like he'll put it on, and I'll put it on, and like we'll take chance of like, let's run to the tree, let's see who fall. Like, we used to have this big pear tree in our backyard. He literally used to run to the tree with his gear on, and I remember I was like 5 years old, and one day I just went to his practice, and the coach was like, "You want to play?" I was 5 years old. The league didn't start till I think 6 and 7.
Yeah.
And I was 5, and my first time playing with them, it was a travel game to Atlanta. And I remember suiting up and getting to play with on his team.
So
because
2
like
years
I said,
up.
he was 2 years older than me, and I think that's when I really I love the game of football. And from that point on, I also had an uncle who played in the NFL who I kind of didn't really watch a lot of his college games, but of course I was so young. It's like hard to catch a Gremlin game on TV from where I grew up at. So, but he played with the Cowboys for 8 years, and being able to watch him, and as I grew older and watch my brothers, like them was like my kind of, I guess, my Superman. Because I'm watching my brother. I got someone right here in front of me doing this. Then I could get the chance to watch my uncle play the game of football, and I played other sports as a kid.
Yeah.
Just football is like what I just fell in love with.
Yeah, did it start clicking in high school? Because obviously you were a big name recruit. You ended up playing at Mississippi State, right? You stayed home. State. And but did you just see it start clicking in high school, sophomore, junior year? When did it start coming?
I think it started clicking when I was like in 7th grade.
All right, cool. Now, that's even better.
Yeah, because when I was young, when I was in the so I tell everybody, they don't believe me, but I played quarterback a little bit in Pee Wee football.
All right, let's go.
And so that made me want to play quarterback in junior high. And I'll never forget, which is also a big mentor for me, my high school football coach, Coach Shorter. And remember, we was getting ready to go try out, and I never forget, I said, I want to play quarterback. And he was like, your big ass not playing quarterback. And I got so mad, and he punched me dead in my rib. And then, because at that point, I looked at him as a mentor.
Yeah.
Because from my 5th grade, I started being a water boy for the high school football team at 5th grade.
Wow.
Because like I said, my brother was a little older, and I was catching the bus from the junior high to elementary. The junior high and all elementary start at 5th grade to 8th grade. So I used to catch a bus from the junior high to the high school every day after school to be the water boy. And I just remember, like, from that day on, he took me on his wing in my 5th grade year. And so when I got to 7th grade for junior high football, I remember him punching me in my ribs and saying, "You're not playing no quarterback." And that's when I got introduced. Of course, he still let me play offense. I was fullback, and I was playing stand-up DN.
So you're saying the Titans got a chance at you playing quarterback at some point?
They not risking that.
Hey, look, I know.
They didn't saw me throw the ball last year, with the old coaching staff. We used to do this thing on Friday, pat and go, where, the D-line run routes, or maybe sometimes I'll throw the ball. They know I got a little arm on me, and also catch, as you saw last year, I got a touchdown.
So. Well, Coach Callahan, I know pretty well because he was with Coach Taylor in
Yep.
Cincinnati. So I'll shoot him a text or a message after this
Most
and see if we
definitely.
can work on that
Throw a
in
little
the
trick play
playbook. But your career getting into the NFL, I know you, like you said, you got to live the dream, play close to home
Yeah.
at Mississippi State. To hear your name called, drafted that high, and to have this dream finally happen after being a water boy for your brother's high school team and just having, I mean, like hearing that passion, like it just, it's motivating to me, anyone listening, because you had that vision at such a young age.
Most definitely.
So getting to hear your name called in the draft, what was that moment like?
It was an unbelievable moment. You know, a lot of stuff that I was dealing with throughout the draft process. You know, some things that happened back in my past in high school. That's the mental aspect of the stuff I was dealing with the mental side of it. And then as I was training for the draft, I tore my ACL. So it was a lot of mental things that was going through my head. Like, should I go back to school? Why me? And, you know, it was just one of them things where if I didn't have the people around me, I would say starting my uncle. Because that day, I think it was like I want to say it was Valentine weekend. It was like the 13th.
Yeah.
That's why I'll never forget it. It was the 13th. It was like on a Friday, and Valentine was that next day. So I was remember because there was like the draft next week. The combine was next week.
Yeah.
And so I was out there. It was a Friday. We were doing normal work, and I tore my ACL.
Jeez.
So I'm like, and it was just like a normal D-line drill. I was just going lateral over the bags, then my knee popped. So I was like, you know, never thought none of it.
Yeah.
I was really ready to go back out there to start working out.
Right.
And, you know, I remember the trainer, Tony Vaughn, he was like, we're just going to shut you down. And like I said, if it wasn't for the people around me, like my uncle, literally didn't know I tore my ACL. I get a knock on my door like at 5:36 a.m. that next morning, and it was my uncle. And and that was I guess Tony called him instead of letting me know right off. So my uncle literally at that time still he's living in Dallas, and I'm like, how in the world he get down here? Like, you know, I'm like shocked right now. And I just remember him. We both sitting on the couch like bawling like tears like falling, and just like, you tore your ACL. And at that point I was like what I'm gonna do now? And but that whole process, like I said, with the people around me, helping with my mental and just keeping my faith in God. You know, I still felt, and you know, just to hear everyone say you good, everything gonna fall in place. And man, I decided I wanted to stay at home. I did it. It was a hotel in Starkville, and we was in a ballroom, and I remember sitting in that room and just, you know, with my family, just that environment. You know, it was all felt peaceful, you know, at home. And, you know, all my words kind of was gone, but, you know, as getting ready for the draft, you still getting them goosebumps.
Yeah.
And, man, I remember just seeing I was like, my phone rang. The first time it was like someone just called. I'm like, why is he calling me at this point?
Yeah.
I'm like, you made me nervous. The draft not even started, but why is you calling me? But then I was just sitting there, and it said the Tennessee Titans pick next. And no idea I was going to the Titans, because I tell everyone, I'll never forget when I would visit a coach, there was like the owner, Jim, he was like, you're our guy. If you there, you come in here. You know, we want you no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I remember just sitting there and my phone rang, and I was like, Nashville. I'm like, oh, the Titans. So at that point, man, I just start crying, because I was like, this is a dream come true. With everything I've been through, especially throughout this draft process, you know, I'm blessed. I was grateful. Mm-hmm. But like I said, just being there with my family, that's a feeling. Every time I see that video, I get chills. But that's a feeling that, you know, I'll never forget for sure.
You've been in the league now a little bit, getting to play with the Titans, having some highs and lows here in the league. But you mentioned a couple times there showing your emotion and getting those feelings out. You know, Darius Leonard, who played for the Colts, I had him on a few months ago, and one of the best things I've ever heard with mental health, he goes, you have to get those tears out, because when you get them out, it's like, it's getting the weight off your shoulders, but those tears are something beautiful, because then you can move on to the next thing and get that emotion out.
Exactly.
When did you start feeling comfortable, like, having that emotion? Or have you always, I mean, like, look, behind the scenes, I've always been a crier. Like, as men, we're supposed to be tough, but like, look, something happens wrong in my life, I'm in my room crying, like, as a kid.
I grew up getting called a crybaby, because I was so emotional.
You and me both, yeah.
Yeah, I still get mad at my sister for bringing it up. Like, I used to have hair probably right here on my shoulders before I end up dreading it up. But used to be mad that my mom used to make me get my hair did. I used to bawl out in tears like, I don't want to get my hair did. But I think for me, especially when I got older, when you realize, sometimes you just can't fight it. I'm very emotional. If you ask guys on the football field, I'm very emotional. Everything I do, I try to do it with passion, especially if I love it. I don't like the game of football. I love the game of football, so I do it with passion. My family, I love my family. And so it's just things where I think I got to a point where, I'm a man. I think that's at the end of the day, I know who I am. So by me shedding tears, that don't make me not who I am. Don't kind of put my self-esteem down, because it's okay. And just like the thing we talk about mental health, a lot of people are scared to show that side, but like I said, I'm comfortable with myself to be able to let my emotion flow.
And it takes a little bit and experience, things that you've gone through to get to that moment feeling comfortable. I want to rewind if I can, because it is a big part of your story, and you mentioned it, a little bit while we were getting started. Not having that father in your life, how did that affect your childhood, chasing the dream in football, your mental health, being this kid that is emotional, that does have wears his heart on his sleeve, but didn't want to talk about it for a long time? How did that affect your childhood?
I don't think it affected me too much. I have a strong mom. Like I tell everybody about my mom. I'd like to talk about my mom. Our relationship is, strong. We have each year I'd be trying to work on small things with my mom, just to, even our communication to this day. But I think when you have a mom who, no matter what, holidays, birthdays, she made a way. My mom been laid off, haven't been working for a while, but it's like when you get to a point where like every birthday, my mom, like I said, my mom raised 5 kids, but every single holiday, Christmas, no matter what it was, Easter, I used to, as I look back at some of these pictures, I used to be like, why did she dress us like this? Why we had to put this on? But like, holidays, birthdays, it was always a joy. Like, they was sending some pictures of them like why she got this? But it's like she used to put these apples in a bucket, which is, as you think about it, it's so germy now. It's like she used to have this bucket full of water and used to put apples in it.
Apples?
Yeah. And I'm like, that, as I think about it, like that, it was disgusting. And all these kids putting their mouth in the water. But like I said, it's just things like that where I appreciate her so much. It's just and I tell her all the time, like, I appreciate you, I love you. The hard work that she endured, especially, like I said, raising 5 kids, 2 boys, and everybody I came across, every time especially growing up, I think the biggest thing my mom I always used to hear, she said, the most important and the most thing that I enjoy hearing people say is how respectful my kids is. And I think she did a hell of a job. So I don't think it had a big knock on my childhood.
Yeah.
Like I said, of course I wanted that dad. I'm going to all these games and, I'm hanging out with my friends and their dads taking us to the game, or, their dad is coming to their high school game. But at the end of the day, when you have a strong mother like my mother, I think she filled both of the roles for me. Like I said, I also had an uncle and, some of the male figure in my life that helped mentor me. Yeah. But I have a pretty strong mom, so.
I think it's a beautiful way that you put that you got this strong mom, and the way she worked, it definitely inspired your work ethic. The reason why I asked that is because you said you didn't feel comfortable talking about that or maybe addressing that until 2 years ago. So I'm kind of just curious, what made that shift for you to be open about it?
Well, I think I just got to a point where I was okay with it, because it's like when you growing up as a child, when you don't have that figure, I think at a point you like, no one knew that I felt some type of way, because when they asked me, I was like, no, that don't bother me. But at the same time, like I said, that's the way it's like mental health. People dealing with things, but they was like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with me. Like I was dealing with that, but the whole time I'm like, I'm okay. Yeah. So I think that was kind of the reason why it took so long for me to just be like, I'm okay with it, because it was like, I wasn't okay, but now I'm okay with it, because it's got to a point where that's what make me a dad. Being able to, when my son call or whatever it may be, when you come to get me, like that's make me proud, and that just make me happy. And I think back like, damn, like, oh, excuse me, like damn, I didn't have that. So I think at the end of the day, that's kind of what molded me to a father I am today and the man I am today. So
It's super powerful. And by the way,
yeah.
you're allowed to say whatever you want
All
on this
right.
podcast, unless your mom gets mad at you for cussing, then we won't
Yeah, no,
cuss.
she give me every now and then.
All right.
She'll hear me, but
Well, we'll
no,
try
it's
not
all
to
good.
upset her
No, it's all
then.
good.
Now, your mom inspired the work that you're doing now with your foundation. I just love to hear about why you wanted to start this foundation and be able to help kids that might have some of the same struggles that you grew up with, and get them to kind of feel proud of themselves, work hard, and all that jazz. But it was inspired by your mom, I would assume, right?
Well, yeah, most definitely. Because when you growing up in a small town, you see so much. You see this maybe fifth graders toting guns. You see fifth graders smoking weed, especially where I'm from. Like the younger kids are getting inspired by the wrong adults,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like we supposed to be helping our kids because they are the future. And I think with me, when we talk about my foundation, it's like I want to do a lot of work back in Mississippi because, of course, like I want to do a lot of work here in Nashville and wherever I can. But it's
Yeah.
like when you talk about trying to inspire and build that self-esteem for our youth, when you look at these small towns, that's where it really needed at.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, well, I grew up at small town Macon, man. It's nothing. It's no. I don't think summer camps for the kids. It's nowhere they could go for the centers. That's maybe free, and I
Yeah.
think that's one of the biggest things that I want to do in the future. Just try to get a center or something like that to help all you stay out of trouble. Maybe get a 7-on-7 league going for our young. Because, man, when I look at some of our athletes down there, I'm like, he's smoking a lot of weed.
Yeah.
And it just, when you look at them, it's like, who is their mentor? And I think that's where when I come in, that it's like, I done been through the high school. I was a 5-star. I got recruited by every school. I went to college. Now I'm in the NFL. So it's like, if I could do this from a small town and make it Mississippi, you can too. And like I said, I just want to keep inspiring our youth, and my foundation, that's what I try to do that through.
I wanted to say it out loud, and I didn't want to mess up the name. Tell me, what was the name of your foundation? I'm sorry.
Give them a reason foundation.
Give them a reason foundation. And the reason you named it that is so that anytime someone's doubting or they're doing that extra rep, they're practicing on Saturdays and no one else is there, because you want to give that coach a reason to believe in you, or that parent a reason to believe, right?
Yep, and it's not, and I try to not to do. I try to do things around not just sports too.
Yeah.
I try to even talk to our young ladies, and maybe they want to be a lawyer. Get his school. I'm not gonna say the school up north. Give Mississippi State. We don't have the best law school, but give these schools just a reason to give you a scholarship. If you got a 4.0 or 32 on the ACT, now you give them a reason. Now you putting the effort into it. Nothing is going to be handed to you. And I think when you say, what I give these kids, especially in my hometown or wherever, what type of advice, like, go out and work for it. Nothing is going to be handed to you.
I think one thing in life, we find, your purpose, and you try to figure out how you can help others. For me, sports reporter for 10 years, loved it. Sorry about the Bengals helmet behind me. I know. Yeah, we said something before it started. Sorry.
I don't think I think I lost to him once. That's it.
All right. Well, then I won't bring it up again. My bad. But I was able to, report on them
good.
for 5 years, worked in the league for about 8, 10. But like, I found a new purpose with this, being able to talk about mental health and help people through this avenue. For you, just hearing your story, knowing your story, and talking with you now, it seems like the foundation, you have your purpose of playing football, but off the field, you found your true purpose.
Most definitely. And I think when it comes down to me, it's bigger than the game of football. Football is what I do, not who I am. I think I was gifted to play the game of football and gifted the talent to go out there and perform the game of football. But I think my biggest gift is being able to touch people just by having a conversation with them, just by going to tell these kids, you could maybe one day accomplish playing in the NFL or being whoever you want to be in life. And I think that's my purpose off the field. And like I said, being able to get that gift of playing the game of football just to touch, kids and even some adults,
Yeah.
You have some adults who be more excited to see you than some of their kids. So I think at the end of the day, just being able to touch and inspire through the game of football.
Yeah.
And I just go back to this quote that my mentor, my head coach always said, use the game of football, don't let it use you. And that's from your education and right now to this day, being able to touch lives.
You said something really powerful. Football's what I do, not who I am. I think NFL players that I've worked with, they struggle a lot sometimes with that identity, but also being vulnerable and talking about the things that we mentioned before, like how you're feeling, what you're going through. How have you seen that change? Because really, have you been in the league 2 years, 3 years?
I'm going on year 6.
Holy cow, I am bad at math.
Yeah, I'm going on year 6.
But you're in the perfect avenue of when you were in college and I covered LSU in the SEC. Like, you have the best facilities, best coaches, but we didn't talk about it.
Exactly.
You get to the league, I think right around your time of coming in, you're in the point where you've seen it change. Mm-hmm. How inspiring is it to see guys talking about this stuff in locker rooms, in workouts, and feeling comfortable being vulnerable, and also knowing about the resources you have in a locker room too?
Yeah, it's most definitely changed. I think what changed is the people. I think once one person do it, everyone started to feel comfortable. And I think when you have a locker room where you can trust each other, especially in the locker room, mm-hmm. you have a staff that you can trust, that you could go and talk to, and they're just a resource. Our first day in, we talking to with Callahan, and just talking about the people we have in place if you need to talk to someone, and through the NFL, it's so much resources we have in the NFL. So I think just being able to have them resources and having like a buddy in the locker room just to go to and trust, be like, okay, man, I'm dealing with this. What's your advice on it? Because I used to do it.
Yeah.
I first came in the league. I didn't hit that rookie wall, but I hit a wall because I was hurting when I came in. Mm. And I had guys like Jarrell Casey, who going on year 10 at the time, 9 or 10 at the time, who been with the Titans 9 years. Yeah. So it's like, bro, what to do? Like, how can I, get better? How can I because at one point I felt like the coaches didn't care. I was the first round pick, but they kind of wasn't talking to me. So that's the wall that I hit. I'm like, man, what to do? So I think when you have guys that you can trust in the locker room, and you get a safe space in your locker room and around the building, I think that's when guys really feel more comfortable, especially in the NFL.
Throughout this episode, Jeffrey and I have talked about how we are both emotional as men. He mentioned how when he was younger, he was made fun of by his friends and family for being a crybaby. But obviously, we've both learned it is okay to be vulnerable as a man and show our emotions. We have to talk about how we're feeling, and that's why, guys, I want to tell you about Man Therapy. Go to mantherapy.org today to take their 18-point head inspection. It is a quick 2-minute test that asks you basic questions about your everyday life, work, home, how you feel about your mental health, to help you the best you can and give you amazing mental health tools, resources, and tips to help you take the best care of your mental health. Again, that is Man Therapy. Visit their website, mantherapy.org today. Suicide can be tough to talk about, and that's why the Happiness Project is helping break the stigma. After losing their classmate Nick, his friends knew they had to do something to help save lives. So, the Happiness Project was born, a clothing brand to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, with t-shirts and hoodies to start a conversation and let people just like you know they are not alone. To learn more, follow @Happiness Project on social media and go to happinessproject.com and use the promo code MENTALGAME for 15% off your first order. The stigma's completely changed since I started reporting on it and since you've got in there, which is really, really cool. I want to get into some fun stuff, too, with your career. You just mentioned Coach Callahan. I don't think I've ever told this story publicly, so I want to tell it if it's cool with you. It's a funny story with him. So the Bengals and Chiefs playing in the AFC Championship in 2021. Evan McPherson kicks it, goes through. We're getting on the elevator. You know how they hold it like for the coaches when they're going up and down? They're holding it for him. All these, I don't know if rich Kansas City fans, but they're sitting in club seats, so like doing okay. They're holding it for him, and Coach Callahan, and you can ask him about this. I hope he remembers it. He looks at them and he goes, "You guys like that shit? Take that shit home with you." As the elevator door closes, and I'm standing next to him about to get on too, and I'm like, "This is amazing." And I had it on video too. I never posted it. But the passion that he has, did you feel that as soon as he came in?
Oh, most definitely, man. I was from not just him either. It's like, it started with him, but like when he first had his team meeting, it's like, well, I take that back. When I first met him, as he said in the meeting, I was one of the first person he called, and just being able to hear him and hear his plans and, just the excitement.
Yeah.
Everyone want that opportunity to be a head coach, and when you hear it in his voice and you meet him in person, you're like, this is the guy I want to play for. I'm excited to play for him, and then you get to Denard Wilson. I'm like, let's play today.
Yeah.
It's like when OTA started, and I'm just sitting in the meetings. I'm like, man, this is going to be fun. Just being able to be yourself and go out there and just play ball. And you could tell these coaches high energy. They ready to win, and like I said, I think it's going to be amazing for us.
You got a favorite moment so far in your career? It's hard to put you on the spot.
I got a couple of different ones. I would say my first one is we played the Rams. I had 3 sacks. My first time career high.
Yeah.
Playing it was a Sunday night game.
Okay, nice.
Thursday or Sunday
first prime
night.
time?
It was first time prime time, and not first time, but for me it was like that first
good game, prime time, like statement game.
Most definitely, and I was like, that's where I feel like I established myself in this league. I think it was maybe 2021 year.
Okay, yeah.
That's the year you guys, the Cincinnati played the Rams, right, in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, that's the year. I hate that year, but
I'm a reporter. I'm not the Bengals. Okay.
No. I'm joking because that same year, I went on a hot streak that year, and it was like that next week we played the Saints. I had 2 sacks. The next week I had a sack, and we get to the playoff. We had that first round bye, and we go play the Bengals. Well, the Bengals come to us. We played them. We had a total of 9 sacks on defense. Mm-hmm. That's another game I had 3 sacks. So that year was probably I would say my best year, and that's it. That's what I'm trying to get back to. Just that being consistent every week.
Yeah.
It's hard, of course, getting double teamed, but at the same time, it's like, I want to get back to them numbers. But having that year with 3 sacks, 3 sacks in 2 games, them 2 games having 3 sacks apiece, I think that's what I remember the most. And then this past year, I scored a touchdown on offense. So that's a memory that I'll never forget, most definitely.
Yeah, and we got to get you back to the QB days too. Maybe you'll,
most definitely
get there throwing it again. Last thing I want to ask you, and thank you so much for your time, is just advice that you would give. Normally, I ask if someone's an actor or an NFL player, advice if someone wants to follow in your footsteps that way. But I think just you and life in general, the way that you've persevered and followed in your mom's footsteps of being a hard worker. What advice would you maybe give to a kid that's living in Louisiana, Mississippi, wants to play sports, but is just, kind of trying to find that spark, doesn't have that answer yet? What advice would you give them?
I think first off, just kind of control the controllables. That's kind of how I live my day. Each day I wake up, I can only control what I control. And I live by be better than I was yesterday, no matter if it's at school, especially as a young kid, or today. I want to be better than I was yesterday. If I'm rehabbing, I want to be better. How can I be better, get my ankle better? How can I get my shoulder better? Whatever it may be than I was the day before. So I think at the end of the day, man, it just, how much are you willing to give?
Yeah.
Not just to that sport, to yourself. When we're talking about, especially the mental side of it, how much are you willing to go that extra yard to let it loose?
Yeah.
And not hold it in. Especially having kids now, he's like, that's the way I want to kind of raise mine. It's okay to come talk to your parents. It's okay, to talk to, if you got a mentor outside of us, your home, it's okay to talk about it. And I think that's the biggest thing, especially with our kids today. It's like, we don't know what they're going through. And then you see so many kids taking their lives, and, that's one of the biggest things that's surprising, just see that, kids taking their lives. Is like, man, what if I would have just reached out? Of course, playing the game of football, it's like, we could be just that light, to one child, and maybe that one child can reach the other one, and, just be that light to our community. So I think for me, at the end of the day, just, control the controllers, and, whatever it may be on the mental side of it, just let it loose. Don't hold it in.
Well, that was super powerful, man. If I can comment on that too, just the sooner that you start that line of communication with your kids, your family, your friends. I get asked this all the time out, how do you help people? It's start that conversation sooner, because the sooner that you and I become boys and talk more, the sooner we're going to be vulnerable and help each other through those situations. For sure, man. Appreciate you so much for coming on the Mental Game. Good luck this season. I'll take this Bengals helmet and throw it away for you.
No, it's all good.
And we'll see everybody right back here next week on the Mental Game. And I love that conversation with Jeffrey. He has just such an infectious personality. And of course, it's amazing that he's living out his dream in the NFL. So a big thanks to Jeffrey for coming on the Mental Game, and good luck to him and the Titans this season. You saw the hat that he was wearing. If you're just listening, it was Fund Recovery. And you can go to fundrecovery.org and help support those who are suffering from mental health struggles or substance abuse, find the treatment and care that they otherwise wouldn't be able to afford. They are a great partner of the Mental Game. Again, go to fundrecovery.org today to help those in need with their mental health and donate for the Fund Recovery. Next week, another surprise guest out here in Los Angeles. Your one hint, a model. We'll have a model on next week here on the Mental Game.